Welcome back. Recently widowed individuals are typically surprised to find that their Social Security benefits suddenly stop. This is usually followed by a request from their local Social Security office to come in and activate survivor benefits. Now, a better scenario would have been to actually have a plan in place if this happens. My guest is Brian Gray with APO Financial in Colorado. Brian, what are some of the factors that determine the survivor benefit amount?
You know, there's a lot of different factors that go into play here, but generally as a rule of thumb, so most people aren't aware, but when somebody passes away, the smaller of the two Social Securities is going to go away. So a lot of people don't have a plan for that, but we're also dealing with the fact that we just lost our life partner and our significant other, so we're dealing with that emotional trauma. But what happens is, because that smaller amount is lost, you have to think about when, before you start thinking about taking Social Security, is at what age do you delay your benefit to? Do you take it at 62, or do you wait till 70, or somewhere in between? But ultimately, one of the main factors that we see is that it all depends on how old the survivor is, and especially if you have a lot of difference in age, where one person might be 5, 6, 7, 8 years older than the younger spouse. But if the older spouse passes away, then you can take survivor benefits as early as 60. You have to watch out for that because there's some income limitations on how much you can earn and actually collect your survivor benefits as well. But you actually should think about, what am I going to do if my spouse passes away early versus what happens if we're going to live a nice long life together. The survivor benefits isn't as impactful later in life if we have a few years left of life, but when we retire in our early 60s, mid 60s, if one of us passes away early, that decision on when to take survivor benefits or even when to take your own benefits is an important decision, and it should be talked to with a professional that understands all the rules.
Can you explain the difference between standard spousal and survivor benefits?
Those two benefits get mixed up all the time. So what happens generally with spousal benefits, most people aren't aware of it, but you can collect up to half of the primary benefits earnings and do that while you're both still alive. So if you have a smaller wage earner, somebody might have been an artist or musician that didn't pay a lot into Social Security, spousal benefits allows that person that didn't pay as much into it to collect a little bit more potentially. But with survivor benefits, we always have to look at the lost income. It doesn't matter whether it's a small income that's lost or a large income that's lost. I'll kind of give you an example. My mom passed away a couple years back, and she had $17,000 in Social Security that my dad lost when she passed away. And my dad flat out said, he goes, "Brian, there's no way I can cut $17,000 in expenses when your mom passed. She didn't spend $17,000 a year on things that were just for her. Most of the things we did together," and he just advised me, he said, basically, "Brian, don't let any of your clients be aware that just because one of you passes away, you're going to spend less." So what we always say is, don't plan on cutting expenses. So when you're planning on that lost income, then make sure you actually address for spending to stay almost or relatively the same.
Brian, finally, how do you know when to claim the survivor benefit?
You know, the main thing is really from the survivor standpoint is how old are you, and can you collect a little bit more benefit and survivor benefits if you wait till full retirement age. So for instance, you're eligible to take survivor benefits as early as age 60, unless you're a survivor who also happens to be disabled, then you can take it as early as 50. But the key thing is really looking at your income plan and making sure that the income that you have, whether you plan on still working or not working, will be enough to actually get you through the rest of your life. It's a complicated decision, and again, we always reference, talk to somebody that actually understands the nuances on Social Security and income planning, because you really have to tie the two together.
Great, Brian. Thanks again.
You're very welcome, Scott. Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Brian Gray with APO Financial in Colorado, and you're watching Retirement News Online.